Okay, I'm back. Okay, Christine, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. We'll wait for everyone to catch up. They promised me the software company promised me that wouldn't happen again. So let me wait a minute. And Christine, I know this takes a little typing, but can you tell me? Would you be able to tell me where it left off, so that I know where to pick up from? Promises, promises. Okay, I'm always making promises. Pressing those seams open. Okay, did I show you the seam pressed open? Let me start there. Oh, and I had to have a drink. Just tea, but I had to have a drink. Okay, so I'm flipped inside out. So hold on one second. I've got to get on my screen so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, so I don't know. Let me turn some of these. So I believe we left off where we stitched our 4 corners, and see there's the, oh, I can't hang on to it now. There's the seam pressed open, and then I'm gonna put my finger in my thumb, my finger in there, and I'm just gonna turn that right side out, and I'm gonna do each corner. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Each corner. And just carefully use your corner turner, your, point turner. Don't jam it up in there, because I jammed one of mine. You didn't get to see it. So I jammed one of mine right there. Okay? So just make sure your corners are nice and flat. And then we're going to press again and try to have your edges as straight as you can. It's kind of an eyeball thing. I think if you take too much time with the ruler and all that you'll just, okay, it's a placemat, remember, not your prom dress. And I would normally have this, let me get it back there. I would normally have this on my bigger pressing mat on my ironing board, and I would go ahead and press it without turning it, but I just got the little tiny one, so I'm just doing my 2 short sides first. I don't know why, just one of those things. And then I'm going to go along, because normally you don't want to press and keep moving it around. You want to press and then let it cool off for a second. Okay, we are going quite a long class today. Or so along. Okay, so I'm going to shut my iron off so I don't forget, because this one doesn't have an automatic shut off. Okay, so for those of you that either are out of time or ready to go, you're going to stitch along this edge. Now I'm gonna change back to my thread that I quilted with. So if you want to stay along with me, I'll go ahead. I'm going to pick a decorative stitch to use, like I did on this one that probably doesn't show up the best because it's the mat, like I said, it's pretty well loved. It's hard to see it. But I just picked the decorative stitch. And the reason I pick a decorative stitch is really simple. If I stitch along here with a straight stitch, I better be pretty darn well perfectly accurate, because a straight stitch following along the edge of this fold is going to show. But if I use a decorative stitch, or even a zigzag stitch, then you're not going to notice it because you're going to go, oh, isn't that a pretty stitch? And you're not going to go, oh, it's crooked, because you don't see it crooked the same as you would a straight stitch. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm going to load this in. So like I said, if you want to stay and sew along with me, I'll go along and I'll pick a stitch and show you. And if not, that's the last of what you have to do. Just stitch around because you want to tack this down. Now you could use steam a seam. Steam a seam comes on a roll 1/4 inch, and you could put steam a seam on and press it down and then press it, and it'll permanently close. But I think if you wash something a lot, which this is, then I would stitch it. That would be what I would do. So I'm going to go ahead and change my thread. So let me know if you're going to stitch along. I don't want to talk to myself. I do that enough anyway. So I'm changing back to the same thread I quilted with. You can pick a different one. You can pick something that blends in. I just stopped to think about, I could do an applique stitch there. Oh, Christine, you're still with me? Okay. And again, I want to make sure I do needle up, needle down, foot up. And I don't have to do that if I have a machine that I push the button over here to thread. I mean, I have to have the foot up when I thread, but it doesn't matter where my needle is when I hit the threader. All right, let me get that out of the way. So now I'm going to do okay, so I got options here. So I can't pick any decorative stitch to use if I have my walking foot on, because the walking foot can't move left and right. So we got to decide. And again, I know I say this over and over, and some people are probably sick of it, but I have a baby lock, so I don't have to concern myself with the feeding. So I'm going to go ahead and take my walking foot off. I'll mark this section of the video because it's going to come up as a new video. I'll mark it as today's, finishing up, I think. I'll put finishing up or something like that so you'll know. Because it's going to go up as 2 parts on YouTube. I don't have any control over that. Okay, so I'm taking my walking foot off, and I'm going to put my end foot on. And the reason I want my end foot, oh, got to have an ankle, don't I? That'd be helpful. So remember I told you when you take your ankle off, your ankle is this part attached to your foot, just like in real life. Never take your ankle off unless it's attached to some kind of foot. And that way you won't lose it. Wow. I shouldn't get that drastic. You're less likely to lose it. And I always stick the foot back on. And somehow I don't want to get my thread in my, I've done that. Have you ever done that? Put your foot on and you screwed the thread right into where the foot is? I'd say raise your hand if you've done it, but I can't see your hands. But you can raise it anyways. So I'm using my end foot. The reason I'm using my end foot is, and that's Baby Lock Brother, the reason I'm using my end foot is because it has a tunnel on the underneath. So if I'm using a decorative stitch, because the decorative stitch is raised up a little bit, it can get through without jamming up. If I left my J foot on, I can't do that. See that little tunnel right there? It doesn't look like much, but it's enough to get those stitches through. Where the J foot is just flat across there. So when the stitches leave the needle area, they're stuck. And you might get away with it sometimes, but I wouldn't count on it all the time. Okay, so I'm going to pick a stitch. And let's see. Let me see. I know some of you got, look. So I'm on my Aventura. So Aventura, it escapes me. Soprano, and there's a couple of them that the stitches will be the same. So I'm going to go into where my decorative stitches are. I'm going to go into number 3, and I'm going to, let me see. I got to do something different than I did before, maybe. Let me pick something that's not too bad. So I think what I'll do is I'm not going to get too decorative. I'm going to use 3-11. And it's really kind of just a cross stitch. So I'm not going to, well, I normally wouldn't start in a corner. But in looking at this, I don't want to start in the middle somewhere, because if my stitches don't end up on going over each other properly because it's a decorative stitch, it'll look funny. So this is probably one of the only times I'm going to start in the corner. And when I stitch with a decorative stitch, I want to be partway off and partway on the border fabric. So this edge is kind of the middle of where the stitch is. And in this case, I'm going to start right at the end, and my needle is actually just barely on the border fabric, and I'm going to go ahead, oh, I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to go ahead and do a locking stitch, because if I'm at the end of the corner, I don't need to come around and meet up with it. I'm just going to come up. You know, I'm here. I'm going to come up here and stop. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this stitch. Okay, I'm going to hold on to this so it's taut. Hands here. And off we go. Okay, so I just noticed that when I did this stitch, I ended up all on my border fabric, and that's okay. I can do that. I just wanted you to see what happened. Can you see it? That little stitch right there. And normally I wouldn't take it off and look at it, because now I got to line it back up again. God only knows where I was. And I got to lock it again. And I'm just going to go down one side, otherwise we'll be here for the whole afternoon. And my job is just to keep the border fabric edge, folded edge, to the center of my foot. And I'm just going to go to the corner, lock it, and stop. Now, my machine has a little, I call it the little bullseye. It's got it's a button with a little circle in the middle of it, and to the left of it is, it's a light, but the light's not on. I'm going to get a little closer to the end, and while the machine is running, when I get near the end, I'm going to push that button, because that'll tell the machine I want to end with a whole stitch, and see how close I get to that edge. Probably would help if I held it down. All right, I'm not, for some reason, I'm not getting what I want to get. So that's okay. It might not do it on that stitch, or I might have been doing something wrong. So here's, oh, let's see if I can bring the camera down to it. So I'm going to show you what I did, but then I'm going to show you that first stitch that I didn't do right. And I normally would just take that out and start again. But let's go in closer. So can you see? There we go. Can you see that stitch? So see how I started and I was way over here? So I'll just come back in. I'll take this one out and come back in and fix it. Or I'll just come around the edge. It's a placemat. And it's just, you know, one for Caspian, and he doesn't care. So see? So see, I don't have to be and I would press it because it'll help with this. You see how it's got a little puckering to it? When you press it, that'll be fine. And see, I just ended where I ended. And then I'll start again. And when I start again, I might come back here where I'm over the edge, I'm over the last stitch I ended with, and go ahead and go. See that? That looks pretty good close up. Okay? So, does anybody have any questions? Because I'm not going to go the whole way around. Like I said, we'll be here. We'll be here till supper time. Okay, so you're just going to go around, and you can start here, lock your stitch, go down to the end, get as close to the end as you can, and lock it, because you really can start on top of where you ended, going this way. So I'm just going to wait a minute and see if you have any questions, any last minute questions. And remember, if you watch this again, it'll be in 2 parts, and I'll rename it. Well, I think I put on it technical difficulties, the same as was that day before, the Thursday night we had technical difficulties, and I'll come into this other software that I'm using now next time. Oh, sorry. Here we go. So, any questions? So, if you would be kind enough to like the video. I know we had technical difficulties. If you feel the need to do a thumbs down, let that go. It's okay. I'm good. I'm good without it. You know, be sure to hit the bell, do the like, do the follow. If you hit the bell, the reminder, I try to an hour or two before I'm gonna start a live. It should send you a reminder, or it'll let you know that it's coming up to remind you. This is Saturday, so for those that are following on Thursday night at 7, and then I'll be back next Saturday. I have to check my work schedule, but I believe it's 1 o'clock. I don't think I work. I only work 1 Saturday a month, so sometimes it's 1:30. Oh, Christine, you finished. That's exciting. That's pretty darn exciting. So I think that maybe next week we may make this same mat, but put some applique on it and do some applique stitching. So I will decide that in the next couple of days, because if we're going to do that, you need to have the quilting already done. And you would do the exact same thing. But but to be sure, just check the Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook page. I'll try to do it like Tuesday to tell you what we're doing. But I think, because this is a pretty good placemat, and now that you've learned to do it, let's make another one. So maybe we'll do something Halloween-y or fall or something with some, some appliques, and I'll set up my camera so that it's up next to the machine more, and you can see how I do applique. Okay. Oh, Christine, you like the corners? Isn't that nice? Yeah. So let me know your thoughts if you don't mind doing another one where we put applique on it. So you're not gonna. The only thing you need to do is have your quilting done, because we're not going to applique through everything. We could, but we're not going to. So if you have your quilting all done, and you can do the same quilting. Remember, it's 2 inches apart on a 45-degree angle. Okay, so let me see. Next week is, yeah, so we can do something, pumpkins or Halloweeny or whatever. And what I'll do is I'll try to do a PDF template of the shapes. And so rather than going into all that again, I'll put some more information up on Facebook, because I don't think there's any place to do it on YouTube. So Christine's asking quilting on the front only. Correct. And I'll spell it out a little better on Facebook. I'll try to do it by Tuesday. And if I can, I'll put a PDF right there that you can download. And if I can't put one right there, I'll put a link over to my website for the PDF, so that you can get your shapes cut out ahead of time with some little bit of instructions. But I just decided that today, I was thinking about, Caspian needs a Halloweeny placemat. And I don't want to use my candy corn fabric up. So I'd rather do fall or Halloween or something like that. And I'll give you some options to pick from, because I know some people don't want Halloween. Okay, so I've chatted long enough. I'll see everybody next Saturday that's just doing the Saturday. Otherwise, I'll see you Thursday night at 7. I'll have information up on both days on Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And I think we better start in this software instead of the other one. So have a great rest of your weekend. The sun is out. Go apple picking. Well, it depends where you live, I guess. And thanks again for joining in.